Hello, book lovers. Hope everybody had a great New Year's. Not long till Halloween now. How much time is left? 9 months? 10 months? Not long. Not long now. So the book that I have today to review is was written by the greatest name in horror ever, none other than Stephen fucking King, and the book is Pet Sematary. Now this book nearly always is at the top of the greatest horror novels of all time, greatest Stephen King horror novels of all time. This is always in the top three. When I was a kid back in the 90s, even the movie Pet Sematary was on TV all the time. So here and there back in the 90s, I saw the snippets, the scenes on the TV, a cat, a scary, demonic looking cat, and all that. But I never really watched this movie because for my kid brain, it seemed a bit boring. At that time, what was I into? Evil Dead, Bruce Campbell, because those Evil Dead movies had a bit more action going on, a bit more comedy. So this felt a bit dull to a kid. But now, because this book gets such a high praise, I have to give this a go. So yeah, a bit mainstream review for this channel. Pet Cemetery. Let's get stuck into this. So this is actually a good book. The premise of the book, this book tells the story of a guy named Louis Creed, and his family. So Louis Creed is a physician. He is a doctor at a college in a small town in Maine. Maine is your normal Stephen King setting, just like Derry. What else? Yeah, Derry, Castle Rock. Yeah. So Ludlow, he moves there into this new house that he buys. The house is on a hill. It has quite a bit of a land to it, and Louis Creed moves there with his wife Rachel, infant son Gage, daughter Ellie, who is about 8, and their cat, black cat named Churchill. Full name Winston Churchill. And they move to this house because Louis Creed takes on the job of a physician at the local university. And the very first day they move in, being a Stephen King fucking novel, even the opening chapters are really ominous and not scary, but ominous. Something's gonna go wrong here at this location. The very first day, they move in. An elderly neighbor from next door, Louis Creed's neighbor named Judd, Judd Crandall, comes to say hi. He lives across the highway from them. It's a very fucking busy highway, and the big timber lumber trucks always go up and down on this highway. So he crosses the driveway. No, it's not a driveway, it's a highway. He crosses the highway, comes to say hi to Louis Creed, and he says, "You need any help? I'm just across the road. I'm your nice neighbor next door." And Louis Creed takes quite a liking to his neighbor. He starts seeing Judd as a surrogate father, a cool father that he never really had. So they strike a friendship, like having beers on Judd's porch every couple of nights a week, shooting shit, having beers on Judd's porch. So they become quite a good friends. So as the story goes on, Louis starts his job as a doctor at this university as a physician, and the very first day of the fucking job, a runner, a jogger, gets hit by a car, and the other students at the university bring him in for a hero to fix, but man, his head is almost exploded, and it's a ghastly sight to read what happens to this guy who gets run over, and it's quite a macabre, quite a gruesome scene to read. You know, it's a Stephen King novel of the 80s, and as this guy is dying in Louis Creed's hands, a hero's hands, he says, he utters some words, and those words are Pet Cemetery. Now, before the scene of the first day at job, Jude, the elderly neighbor of Louis, takes Louis's family for a walk up in the wilderness. This place where Louis lives, it has quite a bush, quite a wilderness around it. It's on a hill. It's good area, big size, not a big size house, but good sized land in the wilderness beyond his house. So Jude, the older guy, takes Louis and Rachel and the kids, Gage. Oh, of course, Gage is in the shoulder pack on Louis's shoulders, and the daughter Ellie, to this place about couple of kilometers. This is a kilometer or so away from Louis's place. The place is called Pet Sematary, and this is a place which this place is a stuff of local legends. The kids from decades, even a fucking century back, have come to this place called Pet Cemetery, and they have maintained it, you know, putting the signs on, mowing the lawns, maintaining the fence of the cemetery. And this graveyard is a stuff, this cemetery is a stuff of local legends. And yeah, and Judd felt like, oh, this is a cool spot here, and it's just behind Louis's house. So why not show this place to them? And Rachel, Louis's wife, is a bit weirded out. It's like, it's a bit strange, you know. I'm going to this place, which is going to the cemetery is bloody macabre. And when she comes back home, she's upset with Louis because Louis's daughter Ellie is upset because she's saying, "Dad, what's gonna happen? Is a cat Churchill's gonna die? You know?" And I mean, I don't want Churchill to die. So the young daughter Ellie is quite disturbed after going to Cemetery and seeing the graves of the pets buried there from like a century, decades ago. So Rachel is like, Judd should not have taken Ellie and us to Pet Cemetery. That was not a nice thing. It has disturbed Ellie. There's nothing fucking natural about dying. There's nothing natural about death. You know how, I mean, none of us is gonna get alive from out of this life, you know. Everyone has to die one day, but as most people don't like to think about it, and because it can be disturbing, you know. You're gonna leave this world behind, you're gonna leave your loved ones behind, you're gonna leave your friends behind, you're gonna leave your lovers behind, you're gonna leave everything behind. And where you gonna go? Is there afterlife? Is there nothing more than what we see here? So it's quite disturbing, and people don't like to talk about it, people don't like to think about it. So Lewis tells Rachel, he says, birth is natural, you know. We are born. From the moment we are born, we start to die. And There is nothing unnatural about death. We all have to die one day. And it's good that kids learn that early. It's good that Ellie, their daughter, learns that early, that death is a part of life, just like life. And Rachel, Lewis's wife, really, really, really fucking becomes angry. And she says, no, 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 there's nothing fucking natural about death. And it's disturbing even talking about death. Now, Rachel has her own skeletons, not skeletons, her own ghosts. Her sister died quite young, and she is still suffering from PTSD, still suffering from the trauma of her sister's death, and she doesn't like to think about death. And Lewis, a hero, kind of remembers that. He's like, yeah, maybe that's why Rachel doesn't want to talk about it. So they had kind of a disagreement, and and the story goes on. And now we are back when this first day, Louis's first day at the university in the clinic, when this guy, this runner, is dying, and he utters the word Pet Cemetery, and that freaks him out, really freaks him out, and he's like, "Am I stressed out moving to new house, new place?" My first day at the job and this person dying. Am I imagining things? Does this really happen? And the story goes on. This story, Stephen King has a habit of blathering on, and sometimes he has verbal diarrhea. But this book is quite to the point, and it has very sinister overtones. And as the story goes on, I think a month or so goes by, and Lewis is having drinks with Jude on his porch one evening again, and they're talking again. And Jude tells Lewis that cats are different than dogs. Cats die violent deaths. Dogs mostly die natural deaths. He says something along the lines, don't get too attached to cats. They mostly get run over. And it's strange, but this scene in the book reminded me of one of the greatest fucking lines by none other than Shakespeare, William Shakespeare. About violent delights. The violent delights deserve violent endings or something. I don't know. It's a cool quotation. I have to dig it up. Something like, I am a violent delight, and we deserve violent ends. It's quite poetic. It's a cool line. I don't know which book of Shakespeare is that fucking line from, but it's stuck in my head. Violent delights. Anyways, cats. So as the fucking story goes on, you have guessed it. Most of you must have seen the movie Pet Sematary from the 80s, and even the remake. I think it came out around 2010s, around 2018, 19. I have seen the snippets of the first movie because it was always on the TV when I was a kid, but I haven't seen the new one. But I'm gonna watch both of those movies and see, do they match with the brilliance of the book? Anyways, poor cat Churchill gets run over by a logging truck around Thanksgiving. Luckily, Ellie, the daughter, Rachel, the wife, Gage, the son, are away at Thanksgiving with Rachel's parents, who are kind of ultra rich, and Lewis is not on a good terms with Rachel's parents because they're snobby and snobby as fuck. Rachel's dad thinks too highly of himself. So yeah, Lewis is alone by himself, and Cat Churchill gets run over by a logging truck. And Lewis tells Jude that my cat's gone, and Jude takes Lewis and the dead cat to Pet Cemetery to bury it, but not to the Cemetery, all the way beyond Pet Cemetery, about 3 kilometers up the hill. There is another fucking graveyard. High up on the hill, there's a flat area like a plateau, and there's an even older and more sinister Indian burial ground. And Jude tells Lewis that this is a real cemetery, and they it's quite a atmospheric scene to read in the book, and they bury Churchill there. Lewis goes with that because he is so numbed out. He's in a shock that his daughter Ellie's favorite, much loved cat has died. So he's numb from the shock. So he goes along with, and he buries Churchill in that cemetery. And he comes home. And he knows something is not right. They shouldn't have buried Churchill in that cemetery, that graveyard. So the same night, the cat comes back from the dead. And the scene is quite freaky too. It happens at night time in Lewis's home, and he's freaked out. But the cat is not the same. Something about the cat is different. She's not his. It's a male cat. Churchill was a male cat. Something is not right about Churchill. He smells of dirt. His eyes have a green glow to them, and he's purring. It feels like Churchill is possessed by some demonic presence. It freaks Lewis out. And as the story goes on, did I mention Lewis also has an infant son? And you know where the story is going. I think you guys have guessed it. So, very sad, heartbreaking scene in a horror fiction book ever. Lewis's son, Gage, gets run over by a truck as well. And really, really devastated by grief, Lewis decides to bury his son, his infant son, in at the real Pet Cemetery at the back. He does confide in Jude, and Jude tries to tell him, no, don't do that, but a father's love. And doesn't stop Lewis. He decides to bury the dead body of his infant son in the real Pet Cemetery at the back of the more known Pet Cemetery, which kids have maintained, though this one is 3 kilometers ahead, and he decides to bury the dead body of his son there. And I'm not going to spoil anything more for you guys. You have to read this book to find out what happens. Things that go fucking bump in the night. Plenty of those things in this book. But even more than that, this book is about grief and loss and how people deal with grief. And if you're a parent, like I said, plenty of spooky shit going in this book. Your normal Stephen King fear. It's lots of it. It's full of it. But more than that, this book is about grief. And if you are a parent, this book will hit you different. Even Stephen King said with this book, he went too far. For a mainstream horror writer, he said he went too far. And he almost didn't publish this book, but his wife, Tabitha, Tabitha Main, no, not Tabitha Main, Tabitha King really coaxed Stephen King to write this book. And thank freaking Satan for that, because this is one of the greatest Stephen King novels ever for horror and for the themes of grief and loss and how people deal with that. And this book is a reminder that some things should be left dead. Some things are better gone, and you should not revive what should not be revived. So yeah, have you guys read this book? This is the ultimate mainstream horror novel. Have you guys read it? How would you rate it? I would rate it solid 8.5 out of 10. Would you guys and girls like me to review any other horror, splatterpunk, extreme horror book? Leave the title of the book in the comments. In the meantime, keep on reading great horror fiction. Bye for now.